So excuse the rambling nature of this one, but although I'm not a hardcore Perry fan, I am a fan, and I know people are going to Friends. People are just like sharing the Friends thing, and I'm not anti-Friends, but it took me a while to get to it. I really didn't watch it that much while it was on air, but I caught up like 10 years ago, and I was like, wow, this was pretty good. And although it's convenient to say that, yeah, he really stood out as one of the better performers. Not that anyone was slacking, but just what he did as a performer is so hard to be that kind of average person on the show but not be bland and have just enough personality that he's likable but not too much that he's like a little too endearing. But I know Matthew from the mid to late 90s to early 2000s. That's the Matthew I know, and he is much more than a comedian. Yes, granted, the things he did mainly fell into comedies, but I look at something like The Whole Nine Yards. That is a comedy, but it is very dark, very dark. And seeing it when you're younger, you're like, I'm not quite getting it, but I know this is good. But I'm just not quite clear what is happening. But it's like, oh, I see what you're doing. Oh, it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, he is a very great performer. And honestly, I heard about this on Twitter when it broke, and I was like, is this real? I was really out of it. I was just like, I could not believe it. It just didn't seem right to me. But I will say, sadly, I think I know a little bit more about the story than most people because I read a lot of tabloids for research. And of course, with Scientology, that's helped a lot because, of course, a lot of celebrities are in that. I know that from the tabloids, he seemed to be going through a lot of things. Just physically, there's no nice way of putting it. He just looks like a mess. He looks terrible. And you kind of wonder what happened. And I want to be very factual. I don't think his career technically declined. If you look at his IMDb, actually, he still had quite a lot of projects, but can't deny he was just not in the place he was in the early 2000s, where I had a friend who told me, you're sleeping on this guy. If you really look at what he's doing, he'll be the next Tom Hanks. Which is ironic because he did 9 Yards with Michael, and Michael was with Tom in the Stephen King adaptation. And so you look at these two guys, and it is a tragic coincidence that, same thing with Michael, like, wow, that guy's going to really skyrocket. And he did. He had a lot of great roles with Daredevil and things like that. And then he just passed away. And you're like, whoa, wait, what? He's gone. And the same thing with Matthew. It's like, he's dead. He's dead. And you're like, how? Again, yes, he looked physically in decline, but I'm like, he just wrote that memoir like a while ago. And I will be totally honest, I was going to do a video not attacking him, but he was criticizing Keanu very harshly. And unfortunately, it's very relevant because he says that, why are these great artists gone, but some people like Keanu are still alive? Like, why is he alive and these great artists are dead? And it was like pretty harsh. And I was like, wow. And I read that section and he did say that. And I was like, oh, wow. And I like Keanu, so I don't quite understand where he's coming from. But you understand the sentiment that good performers, and it is alarmingly now more common, are just leaving. They're just dying, becoming sick, retiring. Michael Caine, he just retired a while ago. It's just feels like a kind of Twilight of the Idols period. But again, there will be a new generation. But I guess it's just nostalgia. I just feel where the new generation is much less talented. There's obviously some exceptions to the rule. I'm not going to go through all of them, focusing on Matthew, but it does feel like we've passed an era and something special has been gone. And I will join the fandom in that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of Friends moments, but I'm going to try to illuminate his other aspects because I do like what he did on Friends, of course, but I just think he's a much more well-rounded performer than people think. And there's just so much going on there with his career, these various romances. He's been in Hollywood a long time. He really started acting very young, so he's got a full career far beyond Friends. It's a very sad day because I did like him as a performer, but I think like many people, didn't really keep up with him because it just seemed like he just dropped out. And we'll have to wait and see. Is this technically a drowning or is it more tragic? Did he take his own life? I don't know. But I won't lie, from the stories I read, it just seemed he was in a pretty bad place. And you have to ask yourself questions. Do you have the right to intervene in a person's life to help them? I don't know. There's no easy answer. So rest in peace, Matthew.